Roman, Commissioner Basham, Commissioner Colleen, Chair Dobb.
Here,
You have a quorum present.
thank you. Commissioner Kenisa, can you, please also use your tablet. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item, please.
C, approve the June 7th, 2023 meeting minutes.
A motion to approve the minutes.
Doing so.
I'm sorry, was there, it's been moved by Commissioner Colleen, supported by Commissioner Basham. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carried.
All right, next item.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Next item.
Item 1, under new business, forwarding the April 2023 Enterprise Resource Planning Connect 43 Program Status Report.
All right, any questions on this item? Okay, hearing none, next item. We'll just go through these and have a motion at the end.
Item 2, forwarding a report on the progress of succession planning for the senior appointee positions.
Any questions or discussion on this report? Hearing none, next item.
Item 3, forwarding the Department of Corporation Counsel Settlement Report for April through June 2023.
Anything on this? The settlement report? Okay. Next item, please.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of Amendment 2 to a contract with 1 2-year option to renew with Comcast Cable Communications Management LLC.
Okay, this is for our internet services. Is there any questions on item number 4? IT department is here. Oh, Commissioner Colleen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is amendment number 2. Are there any further? Well, let me ask this. When does this contract expire? At the end of the 2 years, if we approve this today?
We're on item number 4. There's someone here. Please join us at the table.
That's just a
Just
short,
make sure that microphone's on.
that's just a short one. Now, if this is approved today, then the contract ends in 2 years.
Yes, Hector Roman, Director, Department of Information Technology, correct. We already have started the creating the RFP to take this out for bid prior to the expiration of this new contract.
You anticipated my question. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Item 5, requesting commission approval of Amendment 1 to a 2-year legal services agreement with Lewis and Monday and the Lucino Hamilton versus James Fleming, Ruth Carter, and County of Wayne matter.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak on this item?
Hi, good afternoon. Sue Homo, Deputy Corporation Counsel. This is a legal services contract for a lawsuit involving an alleged wrongful conviction case out of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. We actually have 2 outside counsel firms on this one case. One firm is representing the county and Lewis and Monday is representing the APA, the prosecutor in this case because of a potential conflict of interest between the 2.
Okay, and that is the reason we're going with outside counsel?
Yes.
Because the conflict of interest. Correct. All right. Do we have any questions on this item? Sorry, Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see the original bid was 35,000 and the amendment's 135,000.
100.
Okay, 100,000 and that increases the total amount to 135,000.
Correct.
So I'm looking at, in their anticipation from Corp Counsel about, okay, if we're going to do this, we want to put it in this range so that puts more sunshine on the process and maybe gives more competitors a chance to bid on a contract. That make sense?
Well, no, because the
No.
legal services contracts are not bid out. There is a request for qualifications.
Mhm.
And so the firms are put on an approved list, and they accept the county's terms. So they are all paid essentially the same amount unless there is a specific expertise. And then the firms are selected based on the expertise and their qualifications to handle the litigation.
Well, when you say they're not bid out, it's lowest qualified bidder if they bid them out. It's not lowest bidder.
We don't bid them out is what I'm trying to say, is what I'm telling you, Commissioner. We choose from the list of the qualified attorneys of who we think is best equipped to handle a particular litigation or matter.
I personally would rather see them bid out as lowest qualified bidders, not just who the administration thinks that they can, because whether you like it or not, we're part of this process. And so the only option I have now is vote for it or against it. And it's like, I don't like being there. I like to know that it's the lowest qualified bidder, because what I've seen in the past, because I've been involved in government for some time, you'll see people will underbid a contract. And then they'll have an amendment to it, and another amendment to it, and another amendment to it. And it's like, at some point, I feel like I'm not doing my job rather than just go along with the program.
Commissioner, again, all the firms that are on the list accept the county's fees and terms. So they are all charging the same amount, is what I'm saying. It's a matter of the quality of work. You can't limit the quality of work that you're going to get from a law firm just based on price.
Because I've even met, nothing against the law firms, but I've even met folks that would charge you to say hello to you. That's 1/10 of an hour to say hello in 6 minutes. So, I've been around for a couple of days, and so I just think that I don't mind being a skunk to picnic and asking those kinds of questions, but anytime we can put more sunshine on the process, I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Commissioner Clean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just on the process of this, so Corp Counsel has an attorney for the county of Wayne. But the prosecuting attorney also needs
Correct.
an attorney for this. And so that means Corp Counsel can't play both.
There is, in this particular matter,
Yeah.
there is a potential conflict of
Right.
interest between the prosecutor and the county.
That's right.
Yes.
So is it the prosecutor then that selects the attorney, or does Corporation Counsel
Corporation
do that
Counsel.
on their behalf?
Corporation Counsel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wanting to understand
No, Corporation Counsel
the steps,
is
because I
the
thought, well,
charter, Corporation Counsel, as you know, is the charter mandated
Yeah.
civil attorney for the county.
right, well.
Yeah.
It is,
Mhm.
and of course, they're separately elected. And so I thought maybe they hire their own, okay, comes through Corp Counsel.
Yes.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Sue. Okay. Yes, Madam Clerk, let's go to the addenda, please.
Moving to the agenda, item 7. Forwarding a Department of Personnel / Human Resources report on civil service positions.
All right, did anyone have any questions on this report? All right, next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 8, requesting commission approval of Amendment 4 to a 5-year contract with Alliance Services to pay for 7 insurance policies that is secure for the county as its insurance broker and advisor.
All right, who is here to speak on this item? Please join us at the table.
Good morning. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Michael Cato, Wayne County Risk Management Director.
Can you just explain this contract to us?
Absolutely. What you have before you today is the county's annual renewal insurance policies. These include the county's property, general liability, crime, workers' comp, and underground storage tanks.
Okay. Okay, so I understand that there is an issue with receiving the FEP. We don't have that yet.
That is being handled, the division that handles the FEP approved it. The vendor did submit their information and that went through the process to get approved. However, if you want to call it a glitch to issue the certificate was the problem, but I'm under the impression that's being handled internally and so it's just a matter of the actual certificate. They are approved and it was renewed,
Okay,
but the actual document itself has not been issued.
okay, so
I just
if-
have an email confirmation.
Okay, so for us to, if we were to approve this today, it would be contingent upon receiving that certificate by this Friday by noon. We need
Okay.
to have that in order for our staff to process that for it to go to full board this Tuesday.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll work with that department to make sure
Okay.
that's the case. Like I said, it's approved. They've renewed it.
Mhm.
It's just something on their end was a technical issue that they're working out with the vendor to
okay,
get that situated. So, but I'll make note of that and forward it to Joe or commission staff.
okay, great. Any commissioners have any questions on this? I can't see the screen logged out. Commissioner Clean?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see our first contract hiring these folks was 2017, and prior to that, we had some issues meeting deadlines and making payments and having lapse in coverage or potential,
Right.
but it was a close line. So we hired these folks. Has there been any issues with lapses in insurance, not keeping up with these folks?
Since we've brought on a line, there hasn't been an issue. We do because of the time difference. So for example, our policies renew 7/1.
Okay.
The policies, there's never a gap in coverage. So there's no issue there.
Mhm.
I don't know about previously, but certainly
Previously, there was.
since we brought them on, there hasn't been an issue.
Okay.
So we took care of that, but certainly, working with commission staff, we're always under the pressure of time because when we get these policies, the carriers usually issue them as close to the
Yeah.
start date.
Yeah.
Just like how personally we get insurance, we get them renewed close to the 7/1 date. So
Yeah.
with that being said, 7/1, they want payment 30 days. But we have to go through our process here and we've explained that. They understand that some carriers are patient, some aren't. But certainly working with commission staff, over the years and working especially, I want to say almost last year, got the process down and kind of sped this process up. So we're probably here earlier than we've ever been to get these approved.
Yeah, and that's good because as you described it, that's exactly what was happening was
Right.
on July 3rd, we'd get a bill saying you should have paid us 2 days ago.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
good. No problems with
Yep.
Alliant. Everything's on track.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Commissioner.
All right, anyone else? Questions? Okay. All right, Ken, thank you for
Thanks so much.
joining us. So certificate Friday by noon.
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay. All right,
Thank
thank you. Okay, we are at the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion for these items?
Madam Chair, I would move items 1, 2, 3, and 7 for receive and file and approval of 4, 5, 6, and 8. I think I
Can you
have that
make
correct.
8 contingent upon receiving the FEP
And it'd be
certificate?
contingent
by
at full
Friday.
board upon receiving. Yeah,
Okay, great.
be delighted to add that.
And it's been supported by Commissioner Clark Coleman. Commissioner Basham has a,
I'll be a no on 5.
All right, with that, please vote.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Hey, Madam Clerk, next item.
Moving back to the agenda, item 6, a presentation by Nav Remaneni of IndiGov on a next generation constituent relations messaging tool designed exclusively for governmental bodies.
All right, this is something that we're all very interested in. I've met Nav a couple times at various conferences, and he's been very eager to show us this product. So without further ado, I'll let Tim and Nav take it away.
Through the chair, Tim Johnson, Director of Administration for the county. We've been talking with Nav and his colleagues at IndiGov for probably about the past 8 months. And what it is, it's to describe it succinctly, it's a constituent communications tool that I think will enhance our interactions, both incoming and outgoing with our constituent base. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Nav, who's going to give us a presentation, and then obviously we'll open it up for questions at the end.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Howdy, folks. Thanks for having me today. I take any chance I get to come up to the mitten. I love it here. So a little bit of background on IndiGov is we were founded, next slide, please. We were founded a couple of years ago when our CEO reached out to his congressperson, and it took a while to get a response. So he went to their office on the Hill and asked them why it took so long. The truth is, next slide, please. The truth is, over the past couple of years, with the rise of technology, the world has changed and how folks interact with their elected officials have changed. As electeds in governmental bodies, we often want every single channel we can for constituents to reach out to us. But on the back end, there hasn't been a great way to manage all of that. So that's the solution that's the problem that we're acting to solve with this, with the output being quicker turnaround time to constituents, more targeted messaging, and essentially connecting people to government services a little bit easier. Next slide, please. Give me 2 more, please. So we do this in 2 ways. The first is we help manage incoming constituent communications to reduce the turnaround time and accuracy of the response that's being sent out. The second thing we do is we also work on the proactive or outgoing communication side, where we can use constituent data and information to help target our outreach. I'll show you how here, but the idea is that if you want to connect veterans to veteran services, we offer a way to increase the amount of people you can reach, as well as the pertinence of that messaging that you choose to send out. Next slide, please. So we'll start with the incoming communication side of things. So what we offer for incoming constituent communications is essentially an inbox for all the different channels constituents can use to reach out. Next slide, please. So what we do is we take all those emails, phone calls, social media, web forms, whatever it may be, and we loop it all into one place. And when that information comes in, we do something called triaging that information or routing it to different buckets based on your preferences. So common ways offices like to have this set up is move all the scheduling requests into one place, all the social media tags into one place, questions from news articles into one place. And one personal favorite is our frequent flyers inbox for folks that reach out about several different topics at once. And so the idea is by decluttering a main inbox, it makes it easier to prioritize the information or the requests that are coming in and out and allocate time a little more effectively, while also cleaning out a lot of the clutter and spam that government offices can get, given that information and the ways to reach them are usually public. Next slide, please. So when these tickets come in and these requests show up in your inbox, we can curate the way that they're displayed as well, based on your preferences or whatever is easiest for you to keep organized. Next slide, please. When we get into every single request, we have the ability to track them through to completion, be it assigning them to a correct department, adding any sort of data tags, making internal notes, and having a one-stop shop communications platform to manage everything in. When you respond back to a constituent within the tool, it'll apply what we call a white label brand. So it'll come from your .gov domain. So it essentially, you'd still be the commission would still be the place where constituents can go. The idea is that constituents don't have to change how they react, how they choose to reach out or act with their government. You can meet them where they are. And to that point too, there's a couple of quality of life efficiencies for the folks that are actually doing the responding, such as the ability to add reminders and check back in around topics and the like. Next slide, thank you. We can also automate a lot of the busy work that occurs within offices. So what I mean by that is, next slide, please. The first thing we can do is that if you get a lot of tickets around a similar subject, we can do something called batching them. When we batch these tickets, it makes it easy to keep track of all those requests that are coming in around a similar subject. One such example is something like storm debris management. Imagine a storm rolls through and a lot of constituents are reaching out saying, we have some debris in our yard. We're wondering what the county is doing about this. Now, with my experience, and I'm sure with all of our experiences, it often takes a little bit of time to get all the ducks in a row before we're ready to respond back to our constituents. So what we can do is we can create a batch, and when we have our response ready, we can go ahead and send it to everyone that's reached out about that topic, rather than needing to go back in and dig through all the emails and clutter to find that information. For requests that often tend to be around similar subjects. Let's say you get a lot of requests that come in about something like potholes, and oftentimes you find yourselves taking those requests and forwarding them to the roads department. We can build something called macros, and what these are pre-approved templated responses for those most common ticket items that'll help automate some of that. So let's say a constituent reaches out to you about a pothole and you need to forward this message to the roads department. We can automate that process while still sending a response back to that constituent, as well as forwarding all that relevant information. What this means is that the constituent's still getting a response from your office. Nothing's getting lost in the shuffle, but you're also directing it to the right place so the constituent can see this through to completion. With that too, we can also provide a centralized location or repository of all the historical information or requests that a constituent has sent in. The idea behind having this repository is essentially a one-stop shop. If a constituent reaches out with questions about a case and you need to go see exactly where in the status it is, or if they refer to something, I sent in an email a few weeks ago, what's the status or came about that? You can go ahead and find that. And what we've seen for offices is it makes it easy to maintain and keep track of tickets or requests even after they've been completed, and help flesh out who their constituents are. Along with that, you're able to tag individual constituents with information that might be important. For example, if a constituent reaches out and says, I'm a veteran, I need some help getting access to veterans benefits, you'd be able to tag that constituent as a veteran or as a homeowner, or as a union member. And what this means is that when you have additional messaging, maybe proactive messaging that you'd like to send out in the future, having that data makes it really easy to target and segment out your outreach to these folks. Oh, and there's a mobile app, so you can do all this from your cell phone. So that sums up that incoming side. The idea here is to just make it a little bit easier and get responses out the door quicker to constituents while still maintaining that same level of accuracy, quality, and service that the commissioners strive to meet. The second part of the tool here is going to be on the outgoing communications front. So like I mentioned before, something that we offer is the ability, built-in newslettering tool where we can use the information and data that we've gathered from incoming constituent requests to essentially inform them and connect them to government services proactively. One way we can do this is via an optional constituent database that we provide, where we've collected about 60 different sources of publicly available information, and we've compiled them into one place and cross-reference and check the data for its validity. And with this, what a lot of folks find is that in typical government offices, we've seen about 10 to 15% of constituents are subscribed or opted into newsletters or different tools of that nature. For offices that choose to move ahead with this optional data package, they're able to increase their reach and connect with constituents that may not know who represents them or may not know what services are available to them. After we've taken that additional information and that data point and that reach, we can go ahead and send either digital or physical mailers to constituents. We do provide a digital newslettering tool, which I'll show you in a second, but you also have the ability to print out physical newsletters directly from the tool. There's some quality of life and workflow improvements there, such as automatically adding a person's name to an envelope, for example. The county would have to pay for their own stamps. Own stamps. The newslettering tool is fairly straightforward in its design. You're able to drag and drop different modules such as images, pictures, text messages. Within the tool, it is connected to a Creative Commons library, so you'll have access to millions of stock images for the folks that are a little more artistically designed or inclined. I know I'm not when it comes to design, so we also have the capability to audit for mobile, as most people look at emails on their phone. However, for most of our clients, by and large, is the ability to survey constituents and use that information that they've collected throughout the entire process as a way to target these surveys. So the idea is when you send out one of these surveys, you're also able to collect, one, a pulse check on anyone who responds, and two, data points on individual responses. So for example, let's use the story of the veteran before who reached out asking to be connected with different veteran services. So we've added that user tag. We know this person is a veteran, and maybe we want to do a Veterans Day parade. And so when we reach out to this constituent, now we can target all the veterans or all the people who are tagged as veterans within the tool and ask them if they would like to participate. From there, we can also tag and get that subgroup of people that said, yes, I want to participate. Here's my information. And this can be used for any applicable service. For example, reaching out to folks about broadband or BEAD programs that they may qualify for. So the final piece of IndiGov is analytics and reporting. The idea here is that for a lot of offices that I've worked with that may use pen and paper, Excel to keep track of everything, oftentimes their decision-making tends to be anecdotal or based on gut feel. The idea here is because we're collecting all these constituent requests in one place, we're also able to track the type of things they're reaching out about. So next slide, please. So when we report on this sort of information, we're able to use the data that we've collected to help drive decision-making or resource allocations. For example, if a lot of people are reaching out that they're having trouble with the road system, what that might be able to tell us is maybe we should put additional resources to help alleviate some of those issues, so on and so forth. And there's a couple of other statistics that we can build out for interested offices. A popular one is what the average response time is. For some of our congressional clients, we've reduced that average response time from 45 days to about 8 hours, all tracked within the system. And that is a quick slideshow. I didn't want to take up too much of the commission's time here today. Next slide, please. But I would like to open the floor up to any questions that came up during this brief presentation.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple questions and then I will go to other commissioners. So you mentioned the macro process for the common ticket items. And you mentioned potholes, which is probably, I think, for all of us, the most common constituent concern that, people reach out to us for. So with that sort of issue, what we do is put in a request to our Department of Public Services. And Tim, I don't know if you've looked at this yet, but have you looked at how we would maybe integrate IndiGov into the DPS system for submitting a ticket? Rather than, because how we do it now is we call 188 road crew or we use the app to submit a ticket. Would there be any possibility of using IndiGov to submit a ticket?
I have not looked into that at this point, but that's something as we go forward, if we choose to, that would be something that we could investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible within the tool. We have done it for the city of Chicago where we've integrated with their 311 system. So folks that make requests within the app do show up within the system.
Yeah.
The caveat here is that it's something that we typically like to look after standard implementation, as it does require additional scoping and sometimes just dealing with bureaucracy, to put it kindly.
Yeah. Okay. Second question is the surveys.
Mhm.
Is that something that we could also put out like on our social media? Many of us have Facebook pages, on a website, or create a QR code for print media to, maybe if we don't have a lot of people subscribe to our newsletter, we could also use other ways of getting that survey out to people to collect that data.
Yeah, so the primary way to survey within the tool is through a digital newsletter. The idea behind our surveys, though, is by using the constituent data that we provide, we're able to verify who you do and who you don't represent. And a lot of folks prefer that method because oftentimes they might have a situation where people in the next town over might respond in their survey. And while, that feedback is great, sometimes for local issues, you don't want the risk of it being skewed one way or another by folks that you don't represent.
Okay. And then my last question is, so right now, at least for my office, we're working with an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of constituent calls and emails. How can we integrate, or, if we do go with IndiGov, get that information into the system? Is there some sort of like upload, or would we have to manually enter that information in? Rather than just kind of like keeping that going until they all fall off while we
So
move to IndiGov.
yeah, if you choose to move forward with an implementation, my implementation folks will love that you have an Excel file because it's the easiest one to upload into IndiGov.
Okay, all right. Okay, great. Good to hear. All right, that's all I had. Commissioner Basham, I think you were first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like the direction it's going, except that when you have staff, is there training for the staff to
Yeah.
be able to do import, export capabilities with IndiGov?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And so
Thank you.
the
Write
way
that down.
the way our contracts are structured is to have a cancel for convenience clause. So we are incentivized to make sure that everyone knows and can get the most out of the system. To that end, all of our accounts are assigned a dedicated customer success manager who will be accessible at any time for any questions you have. They'll walk you through the tool as well as train you either virtually or on site based on your preference. Those trainings don't stop after the first time. You have unlimited trainings through the lifetime of your contract. So if you ever bring on new folks or folks that need to get retrained, we're happy to do that at no additional charge. Outside of that dedicated customer success manager, we also have an online module course, a full list of written documentation. There's actually a tab at the top right of the screen where you can ask Abe Lincoln any questions you have, and that'll connect you to one of our live chat operators that will walk you through whatever you need help with. So we want to support you. We want to see you succeed with the tool.
But if you ask Abe Lincoln, it comes out of the grave and you get your answer out of there. But on a serious note, we get this information. And a lot of times people contact their commissioners for issues that are either a local issue or a state or a federal issue. And I try to be proactive. So we get a lot of those. And so is there a mechanism to, if we get those, to be able to?
That's actually a really common use case. So you can do that directly within the tool and within the ticket. And if you have common tickets like that pothole issue, for example, and might be handled by the city rather than the county, we can even automate the forwarding of that information to them or to the right place.
Thank you.
All set. Commissioner Basham.
Not really, because I'm a veteran and I don't like fireworks. And that's one of the issues that just popped up. And really it has to do with the locals, the county, the state, all working together and so on and so forth. So, but I appreciate the directions going in, but anyway, it gives me an idea of some of the things that we could do if intergovernment works. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Clark Coleman.
Thank you. So.
No, push your microphone. Just use this one.
This moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm primarily interested in using it in like an e-blast situation where, right now we do newsletters, but should there be something that happens in between, because we can only do, because of our budget, we can only do maybe 2 or 3 newsletters a year. But so now we have to save up the items until we send out our next newsletter. So is there a way that we're able to send this information in real time when something happens? Can we get that out to our constituents?
Yeah, and so you can send as many newsletters as you'd like with the tool. And on that topic, to share a bit of a personal anecdote, I'm from Illinois, and a few years ago, there was an EF3 tornado that ripped through my parents' neighborhood. It demolished most of the neighborhood. No one died, thankfully. But in the days after, I just remember the calls and the panic from my folks of, we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of people, we're hearing a lot of conflicting reports. And there was no real kind of official response because I don't think my parents were opted in as they had gone through several different mayoral changes. The emergency folks had their own agenda and priorities rather than notifying folks. And so for them, the use case that immediately comes into mind is if there is ever an emergency situation like that, God forbid, being able to go ahead and geofence that area out and reach out to everyone in that affected area as many times as you need to convey that information, both during, directly after, and in the months and years following after the rebuild, being able to do that within one place with no limitations whatsoever, I think is something that would have helped, my family and my community a lot in that place at that time.
Okay, so when we do newsletters, we have lists, mailing lists. If you're going to be doing e-blast, you need an email list. So do you have that sort of thing for each district?
We do. We provide those email lists as well. They're publicly sourced. So we don't have everyone, just people whose information they don't mind being out there. We also recommend sending an email notifying them and letting them opt in ahead of time. And if you have a mailing list right now, we can also combine that mailing list with the data that we provide, and which is something a lot of folks like, where they have some information, they use us to fill in the gaps.
Okay, so Commissioner Clemente indicates when she was in because when I was in the legislature, there was no such thing as any of this. But she just came away from the legislature. So is this the same one that you had, Kara?
Yeah. Not me directly, but I work with the folks that do.
So your system here is available right now to the state of Michigan, the legislators?
I don't believe they like us using their name for marketing purposes, but yes.
Okay, that's right. Then don't say it. Don't say it.
Commissioner, if I can interject, I did talk to the Senate Business Office and they use it. They're very happy with it. I understand the House uses it too. And I think more than 80% of the state Senate offices use this tool regularly. So
Wow.
I think back on the email addresses, I think you mentioned you have 750,000 verifiable email addresses.
Somewhere around there, 700 to 750,000.
Okay.
All right, are you all set, Commissioner Clerk Coleman?
Yes, I am.
All right, we have Commissioner Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts here.
Certainly.
Who would this be a contract with?
This would be a contract with the county.
When you say the county,
County Commission?
The county commission.
County commissions.
county commission, okay. How, because you go, well, if they're seniors, if they're veterans, how is the database populated?
So there's about a 52-step process, I believe, to compile that information. The short answer is we pull from things like the voter file, USPS change of address registry, census data, as well as private sector data that's being sold by companies like Facebook.
More or less, we have districts with about 128,000 people in them. And of course, that'll include minors and whatnot. Does that mean every adult in my district would be in the database?
No.
Who's not?
That's a great question. And so that's something that, we can provide you who we do have. We don't have everyone. I don't know. I wouldn't trust it. Frankly, I wouldn't trust any company that says they have everyone. So I think there's only one country in the world that probably does, and that's North Korea.
Well, yeah, that's just the nature of things here. That's no surprise. I wouldn't expecting it at all that you
Yeah. The idea is
find
that if-
everybody with this. And you gave us a sticker pricing.
Mhm.
Here it talks about 22,000 constituent records. 138,000, that would be the price to the commission.
I believe, did the price Tim negotiated make it over?
Yes. The last page should be the negotiated pricing.
Oh, there's two. Oh,
Yeah.
negotiate. I saw the
Tim
sticker.
went toe to toe with my boss, knocked about $45,000 off the contract.
So you came with the figure of 22,500 constituent records. Where does that number?
That's for the cash. That's how much the constituent records cost.
Say
The
again?
number of, that's how much the records cost. The constituent record count is around 2 million.
Okay, wait a minute.
It was emailed to us.
The 22,500 represents what?
The cost of those constituent records. The annual cost to
And
maintain
they're
and
2
keep them
million above,
updated.
if you see above there.
2 million. We don't have 2 million people in the county.
Yeah, and so when we were discussing this with Tim, there's essentially information that we're very confident in, 99.9% confident. There's about 1.3 million of those records. However, we have the ability to increase that number up to 2 million using what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of second rate data. Now, the original intention when me and Tim first met was to use this data as a way to reach out to folks about their broadband access, use that information to challenge the FCC broadband mapping. For a task like that, it made sense to have more data rather than less so we can get a more accurate figure.
So is this then negotiated pricing?
Mhm.
Is this telling me that for every 22,500 in the database, year one, I'm going to pay 95,500 for that?
That includes everything else as well.
Yeah. But if the true database is 5 times this number of people, then I'm year one cost by 5.
No, the year one cost is static. This is this will
So
cover.
whether there's 22,000 in the database or 1,000,003 in the database, it's still 95,500.
Yes. Yes, so there's 2 million people in the database that we've discussed, and the cost for that's 22,500. Yes, the cost for that's 22,500. And that's the data we're providing. That bit of it's optional. That's that optional data package that we were discussing. So if you chose not to move ahead with that data package, we can strike that 22,500 and it would reduce the contract price to, I think, 73 and change.
Well, I'm trying to understand what I have in front of me.
Mhm.
That's all I'm trying to do. Then you have a 54,000 number for platform and users. What's that?
That's going to cover the operation and maintenance of the tool. So that's the access to the tool. That's making sure all the folks in the county commission that need to have access, as well as their level of access is set to.
Is that essentially then your fixed costs?
Yeah.
For providing this? Is that essentially what this is?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for now. Thanks, Madam Chair.
And Commissioner Clementi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm trying to look at this online, but it's very small. So there's a base package and then there's optional portions to it.
Mhm.
And so the optional portion is this data, the data that would have all the emails and,
Mhm.
right, that's
That's
the
correct.
optional portion. So if we were looking to do e-newsletters, we need that optional portion.
So you would still be able to do the e-newsletters without that optional portion using what information you already have. So if you already have mailing lists and you start to input data like, okay, I know this person's a veteran or this person's a homeowner, and I want to reach out to them about those subjects, based off what you have already, you still have that capability. The idea behind the optional data package is just to increase the amount of folks in that reach that you can have.
Thank you.
Nelson? Okay, Commissioner Clark Coleman?
Did you use it yourself?
We talking about this offline?
Sure. Okay.
All right, I think we're all set with the presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. Any last comments?
Well, yeah, I think our next step is to bring a contract to this committee at some point in the quick near future. For your support, hopefully.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all's time.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Madam Clerk. Next item.
As
Oh,
such
hi-
other matters
hi,
as may be
sorry. Hey,
properly
can you guys
submitted
hear me?
before the committee.
There are none. Next item.
G, public comments.
Did we receive any emails?
There are no emails.
Okay, is there anyone here with us or on Zoom or on the phone who wishes to make a public comment?
Yeah, hey, it's Gregor Boss. Can you guys hear me?
Anyone wishing to make a public comment? If you're on Zoom or on the phone, just unmute yourself. All right, last call for public comment. Hearing none, next item.
Adjournment.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Clark Coleman, supported by Commissioner Colleen.